Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to look at two more Val Lewton films, both of which were directed by Mark Robson, which is The Seventh Victim, which is Robson's debut, and then there was Isle of the Dead, which was another film by Robson, which was made under difficult circumstances because Boris Karloff, the star, got ill halfway through production and had to go for an operation. But they got the film finished. And these are two of the strongest the Val Lewton films for me. These are just wonderful films. Now, Robson went on to do lots of Hollywood films, and from the campy stuff to he directed The Earthquake and Paint in Place and stuff, but he also did a variety of films. I mean, there was Jack Tourneur, who went and made like B movies elsewhere and had one of those up and down careers that was still very enjoyable. They had Robert Wise, who did a respectable career. He kind of was the biggest director to come out of Val Lewton films. He was all over the place, from sci-fi to drama to horror, to musicals. So he was the one who was kind of, he did a lot. And Mark Robson was kind of the one that people kind of forgot, because Tourneur was the big cult figure. Robert Wise was the mainstream one, mainstream success. The guy did Sound of Music, and Andromeda Strain and all these films that were well received. Robson was like, he did the kind of schlockier stuff and was less respected in retrospect. But he started out really well. I mean, his Val Lewton films are all terrific. Now, The Seventh Victim was his debut. I think it was meant to be a Tourneur film, but then it became a Mark Robson film instead. And it is a film that just came and went. Neither of these films were big hits. The other films were big hits at the time. These two films weren't. But that doesn't matter, ultimately. They still worked. The Seventh Victim is about this. It's the debut of Kim Hunter, who was in A Matter of Life and Death, and who was in the Planet of the Apes movies and a bunch of other stuff. It's one of those people, you see her face, I know that person from various things. One of those actresses. And it's her debut, and she's this young woman who's been staying in this private school. Her parents have died, but her sister's been paying the bills. Now her sister has disappeared, so she has to go to New York to try and find what happened to her sister. And there's a lot of quiet and a lot of people not saying what they know, and it becomes this mystery of, where is she? What happened to her? Is she guilty of something? Is she not? And would she be better off being left alone or not? And there's all sorts of things going on that are finally revealed as we get to the end of the film. But the getting there is the interesting part. Now, the film starts off just okay. The first 20-25 minutes is just okay. It's something you've seen before. It gets by a lot with the character stuff and the acting and the atmosphere. But it's like someone goes to a city to investigate a missing person. You've seen that a million times. And it doesn't do anything amazingly new here. But it does do good character work. But it's just as soon as she starts to get some clues, and she goes into this building with this detective, that's when the film suddenly comes alive. Like, all the character stuff you've built up suddenly starts to develop in interesting ways. And you get into the characters a lot more, into the atmosphere a lot more, you get into what's going on a lot more. And essentially, it's because it's almost a century old, I can give spoilers. It's about devil worshippers. But it's devil worshippers in the same way Rosemary's Baby is devil worshippers, where it's like, there's a sense of humour involved. It's like, you're really doing this? Why? And the threat's never supernatural. The threat's what human beings do to each other for their beliefs and what people are capable of as they try and find ways to get through life, and as they take themselves too seriously, and conspiracies and cabals start up over stupid stuff. And that's what happens here. The threat, the disappearance of this woman and the threat to her are all due to human ego and have nothing to actually do with an outside threat of supernatural. It's all to do with human beings and them not saying, not realising this woman didn't like what they were doing, so just left. rather than just saying, okay, no, they're scared, like, oh, she might reveal secrets, she has to die. And that creates all this tension, all this problems, and it slowly unravels through the film as you see different sequences of different bits of threat, and it leads to a really good ending. The ending's a really strong ending. The film just gets better and better as it goes along. It's more complicated and more interesting. There's a lawyer who was married to the woman who's disappeared, but he falls for the sister. There's a failed poet who used to be a real writer and who now can't write anymore, and he falls in love with Kim Hunter as well, and he starts to learn to write again, which is a lot better done than you'd expect. There's a place where the sister lived sometimes that is above a restaurant. You get to know the restaurant owners, and their connection brings things together. There's a suggestion this is a prequel to Cat People, because one of the characters from Cat People's in this one, and he died in Cat People, but he's alive in this one, so it's a suggestion of this happened before Cat People. And it's just this sense of growing threat and growing danger. And this guy from Cat People is strange enough that he can still suggest threat. And the whole film is just wonderful. It's just a wonderful film about just characters and strangeness and just how strange people can be. The sister herself is a very this kind of person who's moved to the city, created a business for herself, and is trying to find meaning in life, and sometimes she goes down dark paths, and the suggestion she's had different types of relationships with men and women, and it's just someone who's struggling with mortality and struggling with her place in the world, and might have ended up killing herself if just been left alone. And it just becomes this thing of the irony is they're trying to kill someone who's suicidal, but by doing what they're doing, they're making her much more like gritty, like I'm going to survive. And there's lots of dark humour, there's lots of dark suggestions of characters throughout the film, and even the sister, who is naive at start, starts to kind of develop some smarts and starts to get used to the city. She gets a job in the city, and she's, you tell she's slowly growing up as she goes along through the story. So there's lots of wonderful character stuff. The only character I'd say is kind of annoying is the husband, who's a lawyer. He's just kind of bland compared to the rest of the characters. He just stands out as being kind of not as interesting as everyone else in the film. Like, all the devil worshippers are all interesting, the leaders are interesting, all the other characters are interesting. This guy is just a character who you get the feeling that they might have wished they'd a better actor in that part. It's just like that thing of everyone else is more interested in this guy, and there's not much they can do about it. They just have to get on with it. So yeah, that's The Seventh Victim. It's wonderful. Go see it. Now is Isle of the Dead, which is even more wonderful. And again, it has the thing of, what do people do when they are paranoid, and when you don't need, like, they do not need any, they have this threat of supernatural, but they don't need supernatural to actually exist, to actually be a problem. And the same thing in Bedlam, which Robson also did, is also about human beings rather than the supernatural. Like, Bedlam did the kind of human beings are monsters movies for Lewton. Really. Other films may have supernatural elements, but or potential, but these films were focused mainly on human monsters. But Isle of the Dead is like just wonderful. I saw this years and years ago. I remember it being great, and then it's hard to find for years and years, and then finally a Blu-ray came out, so I was quite happy to buy the Blu-ray. It is just wonderful. The Blu-ray, you get a lot of nice details, but it's the story itself, and because it's a Lewton film, it's nice and short, So you get to the point, and you just keep going. So essentially, what happens is, it's a civil war in Greece. Boris Karloff plays a general who's leading a battle, and he's continuing to fight, and he's a reputation of being a monster, a human monster, basically, for how like brutal he is and how unsentimental he is. But there's a reporter in his group who is about to leave, and but he's going to go over to the graveyards, which is on this island across from the war. And Karloff says, "Well, my wife's buried here, so I'll take you over and bring you back because I want to visit this grave as well for sentimental reasons." So he goes, "Okay." So it means he spends more time with this guy and tries to figure out a bit more. And you see a logic to some of the decisions he's making early on. When they get there, the wife's remains are gone, and which unsettles Karloff. And then suddenly they hear singing, and they move towards the voice. The voice is basically of this woman who's working for this English couple who are staying on the island with this architect who's got a big house and who's living there. He loves the old Greek myths, and he's investigating them, and he just loves all of that stuff. So they're staying with him just now, and there's another. He's got a housekeeper who's very much based in the past and past superstitions, who he obviously keeps around to get all the stories. And then there's a visitor from England who's also more working class, and there's a motley crew of people there. And they say to Karloff and the reporter, "It's pretty dark. Why don't you there's an extra room? Why don't you stay the night and leave early tomorrow morning so you can get back?" And because Karloff has to go and get back to his job, so Karloff says, "Okay, you can do with a rest," and the reporter says, "That's fine." So as they're about to leave in the morning, the working class English guy has died, and they think it's the plague because there's no air in the island. The island is just like warm, and the plague spread through that warmth. And they say, Karloff's like, "Okay, none of us can leave because there's a plague and we could spread it." And Karloff is very logical. I mean, it's the start of the film with him shooting one of his own men for allowing a retreat or allowing soldiers not to show weakness. He like this person. He says that I've got a job to do. I have to do my job. So he's pretty much one to the rules, so you don't mess with him. And he brings the doctor over from the army, and they say, "Yeah, you have to quarantine. No one can leave until we know that this plague is over." And slowly over the film, people start dying of the plague, basically. But the old woman has got into Karloff's head and she's saying, this young woman, who she's obviously jealous of because this young woman has a life ahead of her, and she's from Greece, but she's got some potential. But this woman's a witch. Watch out for her. She's the one reason why we're all dying. And it's starting to get to Karloff, and it's starting to make him paranoid. And there becomes this sense of the paranoia as more people die, as they hear more about old Greek myths and how on some of the darker myths as well. The woman keeps on feeding to Karloff. He gets more and more paranoid and more real around fists, and things start to happen. People start to die, and there is a woman who has a condition that means people think she's dead, but she's not. It's just a condition that locks her body off for a while. It happens to her. She gets buried alive. She comes back for revenge, and it's just wonderful. And it's just a slow unraveling of people, and how the beliefs start to get out of control, and how they don't take into account what they've been told scientifically. The guy who's into the Greek stuff, he starts to burn stuff for the gods. He says, "I don't know if it works or not, but I'll try it anyway." The old woman's telling Karloff all these myths and all these darkness, and saying she's a monster, she's the one who's creating all these problems. So the reporters fall in love with this woman who's been accused of being a monster. So it's just a slow escalation of tension, and it's just wonderful. The whole atmosphere is wonderful because you get a feeling of doom and dread, and this is not going to end well. And it's just a slow build over time towards doom. that makes it really haunting. And it's just a wonderful film. It's just great. I mean, Robson ended up doing like not so great films, but his early Lewton films are just great. They're just obviously Val Lewton in control of them, and they work together getting these films together. But this stuff is really shows a lot of talent, and just Karlov in both. I mean, Karlov in the Lewton films is just great. He's not in Seven Victim, but he's in Lily Dead. And the other films he made with Lewton as well. He was just wonderful. You could tell he's having a ball. He was just wonderful in the films. And it's just this sign of an actor really enjoying himself and really getting into the meat of what he's doing and just having a great time with the part. Because the part actually is tragic, because the guy who is so focused that he can't actually realise that he's a danger, he's the one who's going mad. And it's just, it's the thing where an actor's getting challenged to do something he's probably not done before, and he's having a great time, like stretching in the ways that if you're a genre actor, yeah, you get work, but sometimes the work's not that demanding of you. So yeah, these are two great films. Go watch them. Seven Victim is now on Criterion, and Isle of the Dead is now available on Blu-ray, so they're easy enough to find. So hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. Right, bye.